Okay, hello, amazing artists. Welcome back to another Art Life Conversations podcast. We are diving into a topic of why, the real reason why you're not painting and what to do about it. This is going to be, I think, a many part series. So, this is going to be part one, and I'm going to tackle a couple of reasons why you're not painting and also what to do about it in each of these podcasts. So, the first thing we're going to dive into is identity, around identity. Um, if you are not painting, if you're not creating art, and this could be any kind of art making, okay? I'm just saying painting because that's what I do. I paint. That's the kind of art that I make. But this could be anything, any kind of art that you as an artist are aiming to create, right? If you are not creating that, the first place I would look to is your identity. Do you actually have an identity that supports you creating art? Do you identify as being an artist, as being someone that makes art? Okay. Or do you identify as um, have another version of identity? Do you identify as a procrastinator, perhaps? Do you have a really strong identity around being a wife, being a mother, working a corporate job? Where do you have a strong identity? What is your identity? And you can kind of look at this as like, if somebody were to ask you what you do, what would you respond, with? Like, do you respond with, oh, I'm a nurse, I'm a secretary, I'm a housewife, I'm a retired grandmother? What is your response to that? Is if part of your response is not, I'm an artist, right? Then you're probably not going to create very much art. So, whatever we have a strong identity around, believe that we are this person, then basically we show up and we have behaviors and take action that prove that we are that thing, right? So if you had a strong identity of being a good mom, right, but you don't have any children, that would be kind of weird, right? Even some people have an identity of being a dog mom, right? Like being a good dog mom, or a cat mom, right? Or whatever a lot of people, especially in America, identify as whatever their career is or whatever their family role is. So if you're telling people I'm a dog mom, then we probably know that you are taking good care of your dog every day. You are taking your dog on walks, taking your dog to the dog park, right? Feeding your dog good food. You're probably taking your dog to the groomer. Maybe your dog travels with you whenever you travel, if you have an identity as a dog mom, right? So I'm trying to use some very simple examples to get across identity. So I know for me, whenever I did not have an identity as an artist, and I didn't tell people, oh, I'm an artist. And in the beginning, whenever I first started pursuing my art again at 26, 28 years old, I would say, I want to be an artist, right? I would say, I'm trying to be an artist. I'm going to art school. I would say things like that, like in future tense of, this is what I'm working towards. And at the time that worked, fairly well for me, but I still also was not really making a lot of art, even though I was signing up for art classes and I was going to in-person art classes even before I, enrolled in art college. I would pretty much make art at those art classes, or if the instructor happened to give us homework, which was very rare, And sometimes I would actually ask for homework because I knew, and these were just like independent classes, right? These were like, I took some classes at the Gage Academy in Seattle. Um, I'm trying to think some other random places. I took some at a museum in Massachusetts. And so sometimes I would actually ask the instructor for assignments because most of these classes were just like you showed up, you painted or drew while you were at the actual class, but that was the only time that I would paint or draw, right? And then I would go home and I would go back into my identity, my existing identity and my existing role of at the time I was married. So I was identifying as a housewife, right? So guess what I did every day? I did the grocery shopping. I cleaned the house. I cooked dinner every day, right? So all of my actions and my habits reinforce my identity. And back then, my art was kind of put in a little, in my artist identity was kind of put in a little box that was kind of separate from the rest of my identity. It wasn't really a part of me yet. I didn't fully identify yet as an artist. I wasn't going around telling people I'm an artist. I would tell people I take art classes on the side. So what you want to, if you're not sure if you have a strong identity as an artist, then you want to look at what do you say to people? What's your language, right? Like, do you introduce yourself as an artist? Do you call yourself a hobby artist? Do you call yourself, or do you say like what I was doing? Do you say I'm trying to be a full-time artist? I want to be a full-time artist. What do you say to people around your art? Or do you just say things like, I'm taking art classes, or I like to paint, I like to draw in my spare time, things like that. Whenever I decided to enroll in art college, then I started saying, I'm preparing to go to art college, right? So a lot of the things I would say were not I am statements. They were like not like a who am I statement. They were this is what I'm doing statement. And all of those actions and everything were moving me towards having an identity as an artist, but I hadn't really stepped into that identity yet. Okay, so if you are not painting, that is the first thing I would recommend consider looking at. Do I really believe that I am an artist? And it is my actions really showing that? Or am I still, not totally in that mindset of I'm an artist? And I would question, well, why is that? Am I not doing enough action? I think sometimes we look at like the actions as a way to see, are we an artist yet? Do we have that identity yet? But I think sometimes the most efficient thing to do and the most time-saving thing to do is to step into the person that you want to become, the person who you want to be. If you want to be an artist, you want to step into that identity with your words, with your thoughts, and of course also with your actions, right? And so I know for me early on, part of it was like, oh, but I'm not an artist yet. I'm not making a living from my art yet. I'm not doing art full time yet. I'm, just doing this, whenever I go to art classes. And so the art teachers that I had, I saw them as real artists. I saw a lot of arts, not all the art students that I went to art classes with, but I saw some art students that I went to art classes with as real artists. But for some reason, I didn't belong in that category. I wasn't that identity. And it's not like this was really conscious for me. It was very subconscious. And I didn't realize at the time that was keeping me from being an artist. It was keeping me from creating more. And so I would only show up and create whenever I had a class to go to. And then whenever I decided to go to art school, I knew I had to submit a portfolio. So I basically created enough pieces to get a portfolio together and to submit my portfolio to get into entrance into art school. But like once I got that portfolio together, I noticed that I wasn't creating as much anymore. I would go back into like this dry spell. So, and just kind of like, yeah, doing my housewife things, and taking care of my other responsibilities and obligations, and just not making art. So let me know in the comments below if this is resonating for you. And I really invite you to take a look at, what are you saying about your art? Is it similar statements? What are your behaviors? Is it similar to what I'm sharing with you here? Let me know in the comments below, because if you have, by the time I left art school, before I left art school, I had a very strong identity that I was an artist. And that's how I would introduce myself to people. And then my behaviors and my actions lined up, were in alignment with what my identity was at that point, being an artist. Okay. Something else that you want to look at, why you're not painting and what to do about it. The second main thing to look at is your thoughts and your beliefs. Okay, so AKA are your beliefs reaffirming your identity as an artist? But really, AKA, head trash. What kind of head trash do you got going on when it comes to creating your art? So your thoughts and your beliefs around the artwork that you make. A lot of times I call this the inner critic. This is basically like that really nasty voice and that very strong fear-based voice that likes to beat us down, and it's our voice, it's in our head, and we're feeding it, we're feeding the monster, and it's getting bigger and fatter and nastier, right? So basically, the more space that you give for this head trash, the more you're not going to want to paint. And so what does this head trash look like? Well, it might look like, oh, you always say that you're going to paint, but you never do. It might look like, well, last time we went in there, it sucked and I didn't do a very good job, and it was hard and it was a struggle, and I just don't think I have what it takes. I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm too old anyway. It's my time to just relax, or I'm too busy. Nobody cares about art anyway. So let me know in the comments below, what is your head trash, right? Like, what are the things that your inner critic, that nasty voice, says to you about painting, okay? Or about creating your art? Like, what are the excuses? What are the reasons why, the reasons it gives you why it doesn't want you to create? And most of the time, these are always going to be very, very, very fear-based, either afraid of the outcome and the pain that is associated with the growing pains of making art, which every artist has to deal with, or the fear of what we do doesn't matter anyway, or we're not good enough, it won't be good enough, people won't like it, why even bother? I've made art before and nobody cares, or nobody buys it, nobody pays attention to it, so really take a deep dive and look at that. I would consider journaling on this. Like, just get it all out on paper, get all that gross, negative stuff out on paper, and take a real good hard, long look at it. Because a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, all the time, your thoughts and your beliefs is what's running the show of your life, right? And I love that Wayne Dyer quote, and I'm probably going to not get it right, butcher it, but Wayne Dyer, he would always say, like, when you change, oh, I'm not going to get it right, but basically, like, whenever you change your thoughts, right, the things that you look at change. Oh my gosh, I totally butchered that. Look it up. It's such a great quote. But basically, everything is always that mindset game. And even identity is really a matter of your beliefs and your mindset, and basically creating space for yourself to step into a higher version of you and a new identity for you, right? But I think something that's really been powerful for me is to journal and to get all of that stuff out, and sometimes you're going to uncover, like, well, when I was a kid and I did art, nobody cared, or I got criticized. You may have had a parent or a teacher that would tell you that your work wasn't good enough, or you couldn't draw, or you weren't very creative. You may have even had, I even have one friend whose mother, had told her that, oh, you're just not, you just don't have the artist spirit, what? You know, so sometimes whenever you take about these things, really you're shedding light on it. And when we shed the light on it and we can really see what is kind of behind the curtain that's running on a day-to-day basis, and we bring awareness to it, we look at it, we look at the information of, here's what I'm thinking and believing, right? And then we get the beautiful moment of getting to decide, do I want to continue thinking and believing these things, right? Or do I want to think and believe something else? Do I want to install a new mental and heart program for myself? Is this really, this inner critic, these nasty thoughts, these limiting beliefs, is this really the story that I want to tell with my life? Is this really all there is? Is this really all I deserve, right? So whenever you get it down on paper, then you can really look at it instead of it just running on autopilot subconsciously in the back of your mind, and you just, ignoring it and going and doing something else, either scrolling Instagram or, cleaning the house or whatever, in order to ignore those subconscious thoughts running back behind there. When you take the time, you make space to actually look at the head trash, and just really see, like, how much it's holding you back, how gross it is, right? Like, how hateful it is, how unloving it is. Like, we would never talk to somebody that we love that way. We would never speak to someone that we had faith in and that we believed in that way. And so the next thing I would invite you to do, once you uncover all of that head trash, and you might want to cry, you might be angry because you might uncover, this person did this to me or said this to me, and that has been hurting, been a wound for me for years and years and years. So there could be some healing work to do there as well. But the next thing I would recommend that you do is that you then really tune in and tap into your soul, right? The space of your soul as an artist, before all of those negative thoughts came in, before any of those wounds happened, right? And really ask, this could be like your higher self, God, the universe, spirit, your spirit, You can put it into any kind of words that really make sense to you, but you can just get still and just get quiet, and let's just do that right now. So we've heard the negative voice, the inner critic voice. We know what it thinks and believes. And just take a deep breath in a moment here, right here, as you're listening to this podcast. Say, higher self, spirit, what is the truth? What is the truth? And just ask for that guidance, right? Ask for the words of love, to be revealed to you. You've already given all of this airtime and all of this space for the words of fear, the words of not enough, the thoughts of not enough. Give some head time and some space to, the words of faith and trust and surrender and belief. What would that voice say to you? Because we all have both of those voices available to us at any time. And it's really just a matter of choosing which voice are we going to listen to today. Okay, my friends, I know that this is heavy, man, but it is the thing that is really, I would say, the number one thing that's going to stop you from creating your art. Those two things, your identity and then your thoughts and your beliefs. If you don't have those set up working for you, then you can do all kinds of other stuff and still be struggling big time. Okay. And I want you to be creating, because I know that you are meant to be an artist and meant to become the artist that you're meant to be. And so that's why I'm sharing this and being, very open and honest and vulnerable on my end, and sharing with you my early experiences and what really stopped me from creating, like what the real truth of that was. Okay. So let me know in the comments below what resonated with you here, or you can send an email to info@artlifewithkelly.com. You can check out everything that I have available as an art instructor, artist mentor, and coach in the description box below as well. And I will talk with you for part 2 of next week's podcast.